Wonderful. So, welcome to our third and final Dorset Workplace Experiences webinar. This has been the final in a series of three, and this particular one covers how to ensure a safe and accessible opportunity for everybody that's involved. From our many conversations with local businesses, we've heard a lot of questions and uncertainty around how to keep young people safe whilst they're with us on any activity like workplace experiences, like a site visit or a taster day. Now, many of these questions can be answered from speaking with the school that the young person is from. And that leads me on nicely to our very first speaker.
Hi.
From a school based in Weymouth, I'd like to introduce Baron, who is Careers Leader at Budmouth Academy.
Thanks very much. So I'll just switch over. There we go. Presumably you can see this now.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. Right. Okay. So from past experience, I think there's a few things that we probably going to be looking at. One will be the safeguarding aspect. Two will be making sure the students, the young people, are comfortable in the environment. Those are the two main aspects, I think. So we'll start with the safeguarding aspects. So first things first, you don't need to do DBSs across your entire business. In fact, in most cases, you won't have to do a DBS at all. So the first thing in terms of tips would be, don't name somebody as being in charge of work experience, because otherwise they have to have a DBS. You don't actually have to do that. What you need to do is to make sure that the young person is working with a number of different people across the week, that the people are it's flexible. It doesn't have to be sat with one person. So we generally try to make sure that companies are not sole traders, which I guess most people are. And if that is the case, you can do things with families and speak to the schools about that. So we have a waiver, particularly where a company or business is a sole trader, but they know the family, and those things are perfectly acceptable. So that can make that work. Second thing is to make sure you've got employers' liability insurance, and the school has the number. Sometimes they'll ask you for a certificate, but that does the main thing. You should always give the same health and safety briefings to the young people as any staff member would get. So any sort of induction, the same stuff. Then on top of that, it's about familiarizing yourself with any physical needs they may have or learning difficulties they may have. Again, the school will get permission to share that information with you. We get that from the parents when we get them to sign up. They agree to that, and then we pass on any information, and we can have a dialogue about any particular thing over the phone, over email. Best over the phone, really, because it's easy to understand things. So I think that is really the main stuff on that. The other question that actually been asked previously, in fact happened recently, is about whether you can take a student off site in a car. Now you can, but my advice would be, firstly, speak to the school. Secondly, speak to the parents. And thirdly, I would probably have 2 members of staff in the car. I think driving with one person in the car, I think you're kind of getting into needing a DBS for that. But with 2 people, that shouldn't be a problem. So then we're coming to the other side of things, really, of making sure the young people are comfortable in their environment. So I guess the first thing to do is to make sure that everyone's, welcomes them, get the staff to speak to them, have lots of different people come and see, checking on them, so they feel they're part of a family, part of a team. That's the kind of support they get in a school, and that's what they'll be used to. And obviously they're properly out of their comfort zone a lot of the time, just going into the place. But on top of that, I think it's important to challenge them and make sure they're learning and they're not doing mundane tasks. They will feel that, a lot of the time they will ask for stuff. But it is good to see, if they're happy doing one thing, see if they can do a little bit more, give them a bit more of a challenge. And again, same thing as I said before, with all of this stuff, it's just communicating with the school. Emails are usually fine. Some really good guidance for you on the 2 links there. The top one, in terms of work experience, it really clarifies the situation with safeguarding health and safety. I think the second one is about the different levels of risk. In terms of risk assessments, you don't really need them if you've worked with young people before. You only need to do one if you've got more than 5 employees, I believe. So if you're a very small company, you don't actually have to do a risk assessment. And the schools certainly don't do them because we have no idea about the level of risk in your workplace. But once you've done one, you don't have to do another one the next year, unless the student is significantly different. If they're very similar, same sort of young age, same sort of capability, that first risk assessment from the previous year is enough. There is also a question about toilets. If you were to just treat the toilets like a public toilet, and it's fine. There isn't a problem with that. Okay. That's me for now. If you have any questions, we'll take them at the end.
Thank you very much, Baron. That was really, really useful, because I think what we find is that often these questions do pop up, and sometimes organisations just don't know what to do, and then often may not get involved because there's too many questions. And I think the important thing that you've said there is actually just check. It's often not as complicated as we think, and it's a lot easier than we think, and often just ask the question. I think that is the key message there. So thank you so much, Baron. And actually, whilst you are still on the call, what's your workplace experience activities for next year?
Well, we've got we have the work experience week from the 7th of July, but we will be looking to do visits, shadowing. We've got a whole set of projects that we're working on that we'd like to talk to people about, and they're in 24 different sectors, and we'd like to get visits out for those as well. So visits are the big thing that we really want to push, moving away from block placements, I think.
Okay, brilliant. So there you go. So if you're able to host some Budmouth Academy students for a short visit for 2 to 3 hours, please reach out to Baron and we
I
can put
should
you in
also add
touch.
also Magna and Atlantic and Livingston. So I'm sort of the careers lead for the whole 4 schools across the Aspirations Trust in Dorset. So yeah, any of those schools, you can come to me if you don't already know the careers lead at the other places. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much. So moving swiftly on to our next speaker then. So research shows us that young people with any special educational needs or disabilities can find it more challenging to identify or access a workplace experience activity. So that's an area that we'd really like to focus on. And we've invited a local SEND professional and expert to give advice on how you can break down some of those barriers, and make sure that your opportunities are suitable for all young people, and especially for those young people that perhaps need those opportunities the most. So over to you, Andrew Holland from Send Me to Work.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Laura. As she said, I'm Andrew, founder of Send Me to Work, which is all about inclusion within the workspace. I provide employer training, a consultancy, and coaching development using Disability Confidence Scheme. So thank you for the opportunity for me to talk to you today. And apologies, my slide is not moving. So I just want you to have a little think about adjustments, making workplaces more accessible, accommodations. And there's some adjustments that everyone has that are out in our community, out in our society. So just have a little pause and just think for 10, 15 seconds. And I'm going to go through a few adjustments that everyone have. I'm wearing a pair just to give you a little start off. Okay, so I hope you all thought of one. So without my glasses, I could not do my job. I could not read, I could not drive, I could not do my everyday life. Okay, so this is my minor adjustment, which makes my life that just a little bit easier. So has anyone thought of anything else that they might like to either contribute, or I'm more than happy just to run through the pitch as well. Hopefully some of you might have thought about a walking stick. It just makes someone's mobility that little bit easier. Okay, it might help them navigate some steps or some stairways. It might just give them some support on unstable ground. Also, here, someone who might have a hearing difficulty or maybe deaf, a hearing aid. You see them everywhere now. They are ill in our society. But without that little important piece of equipment, just think about what that could be for this little girl here. Again, we either love them or hate them, a bit like Marmite. We see them everywhere, but it just gives someone this independence, this access, mobility as well. It enables them to carry on doing what they want to do. Okay, so hopefully you thought of some of these things as we're going. Again, they're everywhere. Lifts. And this is a really important one when we start talking about disability and inclusion, because people always think when you start talking about needing to make an adjustment for someone, people generally think about lifts, or our next one, ramps. So now have a look at these images. And actually, I want you to have this little think about, how does this benefit our whole society? What does having this lift or this ramp or glasses or canes or how do these kind of benefit our people in our society? Like the lift, for example, could benefit an elderly person, or the ramp and the handrail just might make it a little bit easier for a mother with their children, and maybe a toddler in a pushchair. So all these things about accommodations, adjustments are there to make things easier. Assistive technology, quite important just to mention that. So a piece of something which it assists you is known as assistive technology. So we've probably all got phones in our pockets. We probably use all this technology all the time. But have a little think about what you use in your workplace or your home life, or in your society. What is accepted, it's completely embedded. Maybe think about directions. Think about how you use your phone, how you interact with technology. So hopefully you've got a few ideas in your head. So again, you either love it or hate it. Amazon, what you use it for: voice activation. Some elderly people have been using it to kind of support them in terms of occupational therapy and physiotherapy. Other people may use Siri on their Apple phones. It's probably going to start moving at me or talking to me. I only ever use it in the car. I'm very quick to use it in the car because I know I can't send a message, but I just rattle off a message and it gets sent automatically. Amazing. Predictive text, again, gone are the days when you used to have to do your 4 keys. Now you can just basically predict a couple of letters, write a couple of letters, and the word's done for you. So these things have kind of moved in towards our society. Navigation, maps, can't go anywhere now without turning on your maps device to make sure that you get there on time and navigate you there safely. And I've just been using Outlook, Word, Microsoft 365. There's so many features now within the technology of Microsoft, for example. Spell check, thesaurus, word counts, read aloud, dictate, check accessibility features. Translate now, you can write a document in English, translate it immediately into French or German, and do it the other way. So these things make it really useful and really advanced our ability to do things. And this is all good examples of assistive technology. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling this just to set the scene about what is accessible, what's inclusive, and what is assistive technology. So when you're thinking about your work experience places and your own workplaces, because it's really important to have your own good culture within your workplaces. And you might know of some of these things here. I'm just going to go through them. But in terms of what these areas are all about, it basically, there's no set reasonable adjustment or accommodations, but it might include a variety of these areas or equipment or tools or technology or software, for example. But basically and simply, a workplace adjustment, making your workplace more accessible, is something that makes it easier for someone to carry out their job. So you might want to make someone who's on a work experience, you want to make their experience better, and you want to make it so they can carry out that experience as well as possible. And the adjustments can really come under sort of 5 headings. So you might want to think about, obviously physical modifications, mental health support, job redesign, flexible work arrangements, accessible communications. But it's also important to consider other areas such as physical mobility and access, thinking about how you can minimize someone's discomfort, their physical discomfort, or their level of distraction. So it might be that they might be better off in a quieter part of the office or an area where there's no distraction. You want to really enhance that comfort, whether it's through physical aids, physical supports, raised desk, sit desk, supportive chairs, foot stands, mouse pads, all these things which make it better. If someone has a physical disability or they've had an injury, you'd want to do that as well. It's also really important to think about someone's cognition. their sensory experience as well. So actually, how do they process some information? How do they retain? How do they recall? But also maybe some of the sensory barriers. Again, if there's lots of lights, if there's a humming in the background, some things which might cause a young person or an adult to have that little bit of overwhelm. And it's also really valuable to consider everyone's skills and experience, that actually at a certain stage of their life or career, or a certain stage of a young person's kind of work experience journey, they might have different skills at different times. So do consider that. So, pardon me, hasn't moved on. So in terms of disability confidence, some of you may know about this, but there's 3 levels. Anyone can join, it's free. To sign up, you become a disability confident committed, level 1. To go through the framework, you progress to disability confident employer, level 2. And then to become a really excellent kind of leader, disability confident leader, level 3. So within this framework, there, as you go through the process, as you make your workplace more inclusive, you can open your doors to opportunity. And it may be that you invite and welcome people in for a work experience, for some work trials, and this helps you with your accreditation. So the work experience bit, and we were able to run a project called Removing Barriers, and lots of the employers open their doors for the first time to young people with additional needs or an SEND, so a special education need and disability, so they could learn from the experience, they could become more inclusive, so they could know how to be more welcoming, so they could actually put their policies into practice, so they had the adjustments or they could make those accommodations. So it's definitely worthwhile thinking about the scheme and work experience and work trials as well. So just to give you some stats, really, before I finish off, why are we talking about this accessibility, inclusion, disability awareness conversation? Because you can see here, 16 million people in the UK in 21-22 had a disability, which is 24% of the population. So you've probably got some people within your organization who are disabled. And it's also really important to remember that disability encompasses those with long-term health conditions or mental health. So if you had a cancer diagnosis, for example, immediately at that point, you were classed as being disabled. It's not going to be there forever, potentially. You might only be classed as that for whilst you're having your treatment, but as an organization, you might want to make those adjustments so they can carry on with their job whilst also being supported by health professionals. If someone went through a mental health episode, again, keeping them, supporting them as well. I love this stat, but it's quite daunting. But potentially 83% of people gain a disability whilst they're of working age. So that's something to be mindful as well. So if you're not kind of opening your doors to inclusion, it might happen in the future. And 80% of disabled people have non-apparent disabilities. So you might be able to see them. They might not be overly obvious. They might be semi-invisible. So again, how do you know unless you're not having the conversation? And that's the really important bit, is to have that open conversation. If you've got a young person on a work experience placement, is there anything I can do to make this experience better for you? Is there any way you might need a little bit of support? Just to have that conversation. Without having that conversation, you might be better open up as well. And once you know how they may need to be supported, I'm sure you'll be able to accommodate that as well and make those minor adjustments. Through the hub, just so you know, regarding disability, we've got some employer impact stories that more to be willing to share. And we've also got the infographic, which we're more than willing to share as well, just to give you that extra bit of information. And if you'd also really like to know and get stuck into it, we've developed a employer toolkit for removing barriers to inclusion, to really kind of get you on your disability confidence journey. So again, we're more than happy to share those. Any questions, please ask. And yeah, happy to follow up. If you've got any questions via email, etc. All right. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you so much, Andrew. And we'll keep your details there on the screen just for a little bit so people can note that down. But we can share all of those details afterwards as well. I think what I love from that actually is just the message that you had, that just one simple question that you can ask, is there anything that we can do to make this experience better for you? And that's it, isn't it? That's how we can start it, and that's how we can begin, and make sure that opportunity is right for that young person. So thank you very much to both Baron and Andrew for joining us today. So I wanted to close up then with just some sort of key takeaways, if you like. There's been some really useful information shared today. We wanted to make this just sort of quite bite-sized, quite light touch, so that you could listen along whilst eating your sandwich on your lunch break or what have you. But if there's any more information that you need, we are all here to help. And that's something that I'd like to emphasize, really. So just some key takeaways then. Firstly, I think this has come across already, but communication is key, whether that be with the staff within your organisation, staff at the school, the student, perhaps a parent. Just make sure everyone knows what to expect and when, and set those expectations. Also, double check your ELI. Just make sure it's in date, and make sure it includes work experience. Majority of policies do, but it is just worth checking before you get that young person on site. And also take a look at your risk assessment. So if your type of business is used to having young people on site as staff or customers, then it's likely that that risk assessment is suitable already. However, if you're not used to working with the younger generation, then just check it over, and it's possibly that you'll just need to make some sort of slight alterations there just to support those people coming to see you who have no prior experience of knowledge of your type of workplace. So just revisit that just to double check. Now, when the young person first comes on site with you, whether it's a 2-hour visit or whether it's a 2-week placement, give them a health and safety induction, so they know where to find things, where to go, and if an alarm goes off, or who they might need to report things to. And as Baron said, make sure that you've got more than one person that they can. So the young person, when they're on work experience, may have a key contact, but make sure that they've got a couple of people as a backup as well, just in case you're not around, or actually just in case they've got a question or concern that they don't want to bring to you. They've got the option to bring it to somebody else. And finally, just to make sure that your placement or your opportunity is inclusive, be flexible. So this could be something really, really, really simple, like flexing the start time when the young person joins you, and this can make a huge difference on whether that young person could actually take part or not. For example, you don't know, they might have responsibilities at home. There might be something that they need to do, or someone that they need to care for before they come to you. So by just giving them a slightly later start time, that could make the difference. Or it might be that you adjust the tasks when they come to you. You get to know them. You ask them, how can we make this experience better for you, and just have a bit of flexibility there on your program for the visit. So that was our key takeaways there. So as I've said, we are here to help you on this journey. There's people here that are happy to support you. And I think really what we all want to do is just work together to make sure that workplace experiences work for you as a business, but that also that our young people across Dorset getting the opportunity to get out there and experience the vast variety of workplaces that Dorset has to offer. We do have a web page on the Dorset Chamber website, which has a whole host of support and resources and templates, links. It's free to use, free to access, and we're continuing to develop this as well. So if there's something on there that you can't find, that you need, just let me know, because we can either find it for you or we can help you create it. So we would really welcome any feedback that you have. And this is our final webinar in this series, but if there's a particular topic that you'd like to know more about, then let us know and we'd be really happy to facilitate that for you. And so in conclusion then, please register for our Dorset WorkX directory. So we've mentioned them in the other webinars, but this is an online directory that all of the schools will have access to come September, and it's just there to help facilitate that connection between employers and education. Join the work experience revolution here in Dorset. And I mean, why wouldn't you? To join our directory, it's free. It represents all of Dorset, it promotes equal opportunity, and everyone does deserve the chance to experience the workplace. And so let's help them do that. And also by being part of the directory, it can provide you with a support network. So not just through us at Dorset Chamber or our partners, Dorset Careers Hub, but there's the other employers as well that are getting involved. We're all here to kind of work together. And finally, any questions, just please email us and just let us know, see how we can help you. So thank you very much for joining today. I'm going to finish the recording, and if anybody wants to stick around and ask any questions, then please do. But thank you very much.